Hi there, everyone. My name is Dr. James Beck. I'm the Chief Scientific Officer at the Parkinson's Foundation, and welcome to another episode of Wellness Wednesdays, hosted by the Parkinson's Foundation's Facebook website. And we are part of our Education at Home series, PD at Home series. And today I'm going to be talking about the impact of COVID on the research within the broader PD community, and as well as the research we fund, how the foundation is adapting to that, how our researchers are adapting, as well as other programs that we have operational and what they're doing as well. So just to give you a little bit of background about what we're doing as a foundation, what I think it should be clear, hopefully to everyone, is that the role of the Parkinson's Foundation is to make the lives of people better who have Parkinson's disease by improving the care people receive today, as well as advancing research towards a cure so that tomorrow we have something to look forward to as well. It's a combination of these two things that I think really makes the foundation excel at the mission we do and the service we bring to our community as a whole. The research we fund is in a couple different areas. We fund basic science research as well as clinical based research as well. We are funding about $10 million a year or more annually within the research realm. And we have a number of grant opportunities for basic science researchers and clinicians who are interested in pursuing novel ideas that may impact Parkinson's disease. I'll have to say that one of the really unique things about the Parkinson's Foundation is that we utilize people with Parkinson's disease, members of the community, people like yourselves who are watching this video, to help ensure that the research we fund is relevant to people with Parkinson's disease. It meets their priorities and their needs. This is not simply research for research's sake. This is not an academic pursuit. This is research that's meant to impact the lives of people with Parkinson's disease. Recognizing that research can take time and progress, but also recognizing that if we don't start, never get to, as people often say, the longest journey begins with but a single step. And we're doing our part to start that journey so we can get closer to the end, which we hope is a world without Parkinson's disease. Our research, is something that I think is unique, and we have a focus particularly on junior investigators. Junior investigators are young scientists, young clinicians who are getting their feet established within the realm of research. This is a critical opportunity for the PD community, for the PD research community, to capture these people, to guide them in the way of PD research. These are really smart individuals who have great ideas, and we want to make certain that they're applying those great ideas to understanding and solving the problems around Parkinson's disease, whether it's improving the care or, again, the basic problems in understanding Parkinson's disease. I think a thing to keep in mind is that Parkinson's disease itself, we don't understand yet why people develop Parkinson's disease, how it progresses, how we can get a cure. So, as you can appreciate, we really need to understand more about the disease itself and its process in order to be able to advance that field forward. And I mentioned young investigators and the importance of that. And the reason is that, as a scientist who used to be at the bench, you approach your research topic with enthusiasm. The idea of, weekends and holidays getting in the way are somewhat troublesome. I know other people have slept in the lab, performing experiments to make certain that they are successfully accomplished. You go in on weekends in order to, make certain that needs are addressed, or work late nights as part of this. This is a passion that people have. Science is not one where there's a big paycheck or a corner office that awaits you. It's the knowledge that you're able to contribute significantly to the intellectual realm of the area, and you can do that by making progress in understanding Parkinson's disease. So I was just discussing about the role the foundation plays in funding junior scientists and the importance of junior scientists in the research process as a whole. So just to not certain where I got lost, but just to summarize that, what the role the foundation does is not really about funding people, but it's funding great ideas. I find that young scientists have those great ideas that can make a difference. These young scientists dedicate their lives to Parkinson's research once they're invested, and we make certain that they're invested. No organization takes the role that we do at the level we do to ensure that we have that human capital, those people who are dedicating their careers to Parkinson's research. And so that's an important thing to think about. When we talk about a clinical pipeline where new ideas or therapies are coming out of it, it's the Parkinson's Foundation that is providing the front end of that pipeline, those ideas to fill that pipeline so others can act on it. It's all part of a continuum for us to do this. And that's, we're able to motivate those scientists and move them forward. And we have had great success in doing that. I've mentioned for every dollar we funded, it's turned into $5 of follow-on funding. So a $100,000 grant we provide a young scientist turns into a $500,000 grant by the NIH that demonstrates that we placed a bet on somebody, provided that initial funding, and they were able to succeed and be able to keep moving that idea forward into a larger venue, getting that extra research support they need. We need your research support too, because it's critical for us as an organization in order to be able to keep the research community focused on Parkinson's disease. The NIH has over 650 neurologic diseases that they're focused on. We have just one, and that's Parkinson's disease. So without further ado, let me just start addressing some of the concerns that we have in this time of COVID and how we're reacting to that, and hopefully have a chance to answer some of the questions which are coming in, being shared with my colleagues. So what does it mean with COVID-19? So I think everyone appreciates that there's a lot of people are being stuck at home, workplaces are closed, and that's had impact on the research. Labs have shuttered. People in labs are not able to go in to do the experiments that they had anticipated that we had funded. If they're doing bench work in the lab, they have to close that down. Some of the stuff they can put it in the freezer and come back to, but other things they can't. It takes a long time to restart experiments to make certain that what you're working on is at the right stage to do so. One of the things that people work on are trying to create models of Parkinson's disease that resemble the human condition. No animal gets Parkinson's disease except the human animal. So what they're finding, for instance, is that when working on trying to understand Parkinson's, aged mice, older mice are better. So if you can't keep mouse colony going like you would expect, just to give you a sense, one little habitat holding a handful of mice costs about as much as a hotel room in Manhattan to maintain on a daily basis. So without people to go in there and maintain it as need be, you have to shrink these colonies down. You have to expand them back up when you are able to. So when COVID is over, people aren't going to be able to go back into the lab and be able to turn the key and start that research process again right where they left off. They're going to have to slowly ramp everything back up, get the machinery of research moving again so that they can really see what they need to do in order to move forward. That said, scientists we're funding, and we've just been going through grant applications this year, really exciting. Some of them are utilizing data that they already have, trying to understand and analyze it using computational approaches. So that is really exciting because it means that the research immediately start right away as soon as we provide funding for them. Other folks were working with all our scientists to provide what are called no-cost extensions to give them extra time in order to get their research up and going, and started recognizing this window that I think everyone recognizes unique is having a factor when it comes to maintaining research progress as we would hope. So we're working together with our scientists in order to do that. It's, I think, something that's unique to our foundation is a collaborative and we have in working with our scientists. It's something we view our researchers as part of our family, research family, and we're all working together in order to advance progress to understanding Parkinson's disease and getting a solution to it. So just some questions that are coming in. asking about a status of interventional clinical trials during the time of COVID. How will clinical studies protecting participants from the coronavirus? Well, right now, just like work within the lab, work that involves people, clinical trials, has ground to a halt. Aside from work on coronavirus itself, or some rare cases where people have, certain clinical trials that are underway that, life or death situations. But when it comes to most of the Parkinson's disease research, those clinical trials, they've been put on a halt. I know that many of the institutional review boards are working to find ways to accommodate that research and forward, primarily by moving to a telemedicine approach. Just kind of like this, where you're looking at me, but I would be able to see you, and you would engage with your clinician and or a study representative to do some assessments. What I'm really excited about is that this shift to moving to online approach, using telemedicine, using novel ways in which to reach out to people with Parkinson's, is something that the foundation is quickly pivoting to. We have our Parkinson's Outcome Project, which is a natural history study trying to understand and track the progression of Parkinson's disease in people as they get their regular treatment at our centers of excellence. So it's maybe not so regular, it's special, it's high quality therapies. And the idea is we can track how that therapy is handled so that we can be able to understand what it is and then be able to promulgate that to the rest of the neuroscience and neurological community. We've already had some of our first virtual visits, study visits through our outcomes project, and so we're collecting data right there. So that's something that we're really proud of. Another clinical study that we have underway is our PD generation study, mapping the future of Parkinson's disease. PD generation is a very large study that's undertaken to be able to offer free genetic testing and genetic counseling within the clinic arena for people with Parkinson's disease. The idea here is that if we can understand who with Parkinson's disease may have a genetic form of Parkinson's disease, we can move the field forward to the next generation therapies that are in the wings, that are waiting to be tested in people with PD. The problem is, most people with Parkinson's disease haven't had genetic testing, or if they did genetic testing, it was direct to consumer, which was a very a brief approach to genetic testing. It's the Cliff Notes version of what the Parkinson's Foundation is offering, looking at 7 relevant Parkinson's disease genes and looking for every mutation with those genes that might be relevant to a person with Parkinson's disease. And then a genetic counselor or your clinician to provide that report back to the participants so they have an understanding of what the results are. They know what it means for them, maybe for their family. So we're just wanting to address some of the questions that had come in for the Q&A and regarding about moving us from clinical trials in the time of COVID and how that's working. Just to recap, most clinical trials are put on hiatus. Bringing people into hospitals, especially a vulnerable population with people with Parkinson's disease, is not recommended right now. I'm not certain how they're going to be able to manage that moving forward to be able to bring people back in person again. But the regulators and ethic reviews at different sites are understanding of this, and they're encouraging those who are running studies to move to a virtual presence. And we're fortunate that the Foundation's 2 clinical trials that we have underway, Parkinson's Outcome Project and our PD generation study, are poised to take advantage of utilizing remote telemedicine activity to continue our study. Our outcomes project study already has actually had several telemedicine visits to date, so we're very confident that's going to work. And we're just ready to finalize our protocol change with our PD generation study to allow people to utilize telemedicine for their efforts to understand their genetic background for Parkinson's disease. Just to recap, our PD generation study is a unique study. It's a game changer, really. We're offering free genetic testing and counseling to 15,000 people with Parkinson's disease in the United States. That's our goal over the year. Already had a pilot study that's underway demonstrating the success of that. Recruitment was through the roof. And then we had to put a pause on it because of COVID, as many things have been put a pause on. We've switching to telemedicine, and I think we'll be able to move forward with that. The genes that are offered through PD generation are 7 that are relevant to people with Parkinson's disease, and we offer full sequencing of those genes, returning all relevant mutations or variants, as they are called, back to the people with PD. And because we require a genetic counselor or a clinician to return those results, it allows the participant, you in the audience, if you choose to participate, to be able to ask the questions to understand about the genetic nature of your Parkinson's disease, if there is one that we can find. And so this is a sword that can cut both, meaning people may be upset that they have a genetic form of Parkinson's disease. What does it mean for their loved ones? Well, one of the great things is that because there are about a half dozen clinical trials waiting in the wings to address therapies to tackle gene-specific forms of Parkinson's disease, there's now something to do about it. 2 or 3 years ago, there wasn't anything one could really do. And if you don't find that you have one of these 7 gene mutations, chances are you may not have a genetic form of Parkinson's disease. So that can be a relief. One doesn't have to worry that their children may be affected by Parkinson's disease. That's not guaranteed, but we certainly looked at the 7 predominant genes that are involved in PD. So moving to telemedicine is a key way that the foundation is adapting to this time of COVID as well. So that's in relation to a question asking about how clinical trials are changing. Other clinical trials are also going to have to take advantage of telemedicine for the most part. It's not something that people are comfortable coming into hospitals right now, understandably, until we really get a handle on it. We also have some more questions that are coming in about just in general research on PD. I mentioned that COVID has really put a hiatus, put a pause on much of the Parkinson's disease research that's going on in the lab. We're excited that some of the research we fund is still able to continue on, because the research is often dealing with large data sets or databases, like something that one could do at home with just a powerful computer, and most computers are very powerful these days. You have some questions coming in about what potential treatments are around effective for Parkinson's disease, around walking and dementia. It's a little bit beyond the scope of what we're going to be talking about today, but know that there are therapies out there that can help. There's limited new therapies that can help with issues around walk. Unfortunately, it remains one of the really difficult areas to address. The foundation has funded research recently to really focus on what we call freezing of gait, or some of these balance disorders, to better understand the underpinnings of some of these issues. So hopefully, those are ways in which we can address that as well. Mental health, real concern for our community as well, and so we're working to develop a way with which people who have some mental health issues, depression, anxiety, especially now, can get those addressed adequately by their doctors. Neurology visits are often short. There's a lot to accomplish and cover during those visits. And so sometimes people focus on other things as opposed to, the issues they may have around depression and anxiety. And so we're working ways with which to structure those visits so that these questions can be brought to bear. Because often there are treatments available for people who may have some of these mental health issues. And coming in about someone from the UK who's in the 100,000 Genome Project in the UK. And just to say, that's a different program than what we're doing. What we're offering is specifically to people with Parkinson's disease in the US. Hopefully we can reach a broader area as well. And so our issue here with the PD generation is we're going to collect this DNA samples, provide the return results to people with Parkinson's disease, but we're also going to bank that DNA. People who consent to PD generation also are willing to share that data, that de-identified data, with researchers who can use that to better understand Parkinson's disease. So like other genome projects, the data is going to be shared with the academic research community broadly, hopefully to better understand Parkinson's disease. So, we can aggregate the data together. And so we're working in concert as a team. If people have been part of other genetic studies, they're welcome to become part of the PD generation study. I mention that particularly because other studies that have been around have been very selective in what they've tested. They're not as comprehensive as what PD generation is offering typically. So we will look at not just one mutation in a gene or a single mutation in 2 genes. What we'll do is look at all of the mutations that are relevant to a person with Parkinson's disease, and particularly, people have been utilizing direct-to-consumer testing that's available, and that only really looks at one specific mutation in a gene. And here we're going to look at 6 mutations if for a particular gene, like LRRK2, and return those results back. We're understanding we're finding new information as we go, and so what we've done is brought together an international team of experts in genetics to really help talk and discuss how we should handle these novel mutations that come across, and what do they mean to a person with Parkinson's. Often these mutations or variants, as they're called, may not be significant, but it's, if we start seeing a lot of them, then it's something that's important. One of the unique aspects of PD generation is that, participants can expect to hear from the foundation. We want to keep them engaged in the research process. We want them to know what's available to them as they consider trials that might be they might be eligible for or otherwise. So we want to reach out to them. We also want to let them know in case we find some new information about their genetic information that they shared with us. Maybe it's a new PD gene that could be relevant, or it could be something else. So, that is a unique aspect of our study, is that we can recontact participants and look to do so as part of that to help guide them along the way. So, another question about the research in the community that people are excited about. I have to say what I'm really excited about, again, if it's not clear, is the genetic aspects of Parkinson's disease, the precision medicine that we can start hopefully seeing for PD, much like it's happened with care, where a person who may have a cancer diagnosis is quickly offered testing to understand what kind of mutation has led to that cancer. Our goal here at the foundation is to get to the point where if someone gives someone a PD diagnosis, they are asking them for a DNA sample so we can help personalize treatment that might be available to them. Understanding these genetic forms of PD are going to be really important. But what's really exciting potential possibilities, this precision medicine for Parkinson's disease, is that, by focusing on some of these rare mutations, and these mutations, just to keep in mind, really represent about maybe 10 to 15% of people with Parkinson's will have a genetic form of PD. But by focusing on these mutations, what I think we can do is make progress to solve some of these genetic forms of Parkinson's disease. And then if these therapies prove successful for that specific form of Parkinson's disease, it may prove successful for people who have what are just known as idiopathic Parkinson's disease. It's the PD that's not ascribed to a genetic mutation or some other known cause. These therapies may halt or slow PD in general. And in fact, what could be really is exciting is that PD, people with genetic forms of PD often have children, and their children could be at risk for developing Parkinson's disease. If these therapies prove successful in helping someone who has PD, who has a genetic mutation associated with it, I can guarantee you that the pharmaceutical companies are really working hard to make progress on this, looking to identify individuals who might be at risk for PD and potentially offer them a therapy that, if things work as hoped, could prevent them from getting Parkinson's disease at all. It's really exciting to think about. There could be a whole generation of people who are at risk for PD, but now, because of therapies that have come to market, will not have to experience a PD diagnosis because their condition can be treated ahead of time, prophylactically, to prevent the onset of Parkinson's disease. But I just want to say that things are still moving forward, even in the midst of COVID. Research is still happening. It is impacting it significantly in some aspects, but other parts of the research community are able to adapt. They're able to take advantage of these work from home situations and bring their data with them. And that clinical trials are also seeking to adapt. The ones that the foundation is sponsoring, our Parkinson's Outcome Project offered at some select centers of excellence, as well as our PD generation study, which we're in the process of hopefully being able to offer it broadly by the end of summer, where people can do remote testing, remote process. We'll send a kit in the mail where people can swab their cheek and send in their DNA sample, and then a genetic counselor or clinician will follow back up with the results of that study. It's so important that this is based in the clinic, because we recognize that an important point of care in a person's life with Parkinson's disease is their clinician. So we want to ensure that they're included in this process as a whole. So until our next Wellness Wednesday, I bid you adieu and look forward to potentially answering some questions that might be coming in through the chat feature. So everyone stay safe, stay healthy, and look forward to more coming from the Parkinson's Foundation soon. Thank you.